the solo wargaming guide. We're doing a chainmail campaign, and the map looks a little something like this. And the last battle we fought last week was called the Second Battle of Pink Phantom Hills. We're going to go through this and the aftermath and walk our way through how this relates back to this. But first, we have to talk about something much more exciting. I mean, weather. Well, I mean, it's not terribly exciting, but it is interesting because for the first time, there we go. Weather is going to play a huge factor. Now, the second battle of Pink Phantom Hills occurred right here on the let me double check here. On the 27th. Okay, so if we take a look at this, on the 27th, the weather was clear. Oh, it was nice weather. But then, oh man, what is this? Light rain on the day after? That's the aftermath. Now, the orcs won, but they have to take a day to recover their wounded, chase down any stragglers. And then we've got another day of rain and another day, oh my gosh. And then moving into August, we have heavy rains, light rains. Everything is going to get bogged down. After that third day of rain, nobody's moving anywhere or doing anything until, well, let's see. The last day of rain is on August 8th. Then we have a clear day. Going to take a full day for everything to dry out. The August 10th is basically, we got a break here from the end of July up through August 10th. Is that good for the Bromans who are now fighting on the defensive? I'm not entirely sure. Let's go ahead and take a look at the aftermath of that battle now. I went back and I watched the video a number of times, and here's what we're looking at. Going analog, got to write it all down. It's just so much more personal. It just kind of seeps into your bones and your psyche in a way that no spreadsheet can. Basically, and I have all the routes of travel that all the different units took. These guys came around here, but the important thing to be aware of here is that at the end of the day, the Great Khan winds up with a total of 1,225 heavy foot. 575 armored foot, and just 875. They did not take a whole lot of casualties, but they captured a ton of Bromans, almost 1,400. Now, because they have, call it 1,400, that means they need to spring almost 300 guards loose. And those guys are going to be kind of camped out right here in the crook, where, in the open, but, I think this is good enough. It's as close as you can get to the orc lands proper. And basically, the battle took place here. So we'll send the prison camp will be over here, or maybe we'll bring that along Hobfort, because the way I see this happening, remember that at the end of the battle, now here's where it gets interesting for the Bromans. At the end of the battle, the heavy horse, the Khan's chariots, wound up chasing off 900 heavy foot. Now, 375 light horse went in hot pursuit, so these 900 have escaped. Basically, that's what it amounts to. And then we have 100 archers that were still left in the woods at the end, and they kind of slipped away in the aftermath as well. So you've got, 1,000, 1,400. What are we going to do with these guys? Well, if we take a look at the map, and I've already run the numbers on this, basically, we are going to send those light horse down here to Hobfort. And we're going to do that because it's pretty obvious at this point that the Great Khan, he needs to maintain a supply chain. So he's going to have to smash Hobfort before he moves down south. And that is where we're going to be doing some fun siege work over here. The light horse chased the heavy horse around and kind of bought time for those foot troops to get back into Hobfort. Heavy horse are good for smashing guys on a battlefield, not good for pursuing running troops. They don't have any staying power. They are sprinters. So the light horse say, look, if we're going to be stuck in, and bear in mind, Hobfort, just one house, it's a tiny little village. This is an unimproved dirt track. So the light horse say, you know what? We don't want to get bogged down in behind the walls in a siege. They're going to go down to Hobfort. All right. Now, that's where we have to take another look at our chart. So the aftermath of the battle is going to be on the 28th, right? The battle is on the 27th. There's a 28th, gives the survivors time to get back into Hobfort. And then the 29th, oh, look, it's only it's actually a quarter move. It reduces move by a quarter. Oh, man, that means they're just going to get, and then the 30th, the orcs are going to be able to get invested around the village of Hobton, or is it Hobfort? Hobfort. Now, it's Hobfort, so I think what we'll do is we'll call that, even though it's a tiny little town, we'll say it has a little wooden palisade around it. So it's not the kind of place that you can just ride into and take. It will be able to withstand some kind of a siege. But like I said, the orcs just have just enough time to get invested around that Hobfort before we're suffering through a total of 10 days of not being able to move. Okay, so stick a little pin in that. We'll come back to that. But I want to look at what's going on over here on the western side of the fight. Remember that Murray Mac, he's the giant that lives up here in Giant Hill, has been summoned. He has been fed 150 human prisoners, and he has stomped his way down, and he's going to be able to make it down here to Chugrur. But then he gets bogged down by the same issues. He arrives here just in time for those rains to start, and rather than get stuck down here in the Lightwood, the Whiteheart Wood, he says, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to wait for this to blow over. So on the 10th, that is when the Nashers and Murray Mac are going to be able to set forth. The Nashers, if you will recall, have, they're about 14, let's see, 1,000, another 300, another 400. They're about 1,400. Small kind group, but man, with a giant at their back, whew, Lord, he's a-coming. They are going to be matched and opposed by the Emperor's Own. Now, the Emperor's Own takes kind of the same tack. We have an improved road, and once it becomes obvious that, and the battle here was on the 12th, once it becomes obvious that the orcs are no threat, the Emperor retreats back to Broholm. Now, because you've got this road here, the Emperor can get back to Blagton within 3 days. But this distance here, it's a 10-day journey to get through the Whiteheart Wood, including a day of rest, because it's actually 9 days of travel, day of rest. So they're going to come out on the 10th, and that's going to give the Emperor's Own plenty of time to come over here to counter. All right, but I still haven't talked about the most important thing, the loot. This is why the great Latora Khan has stomped on down through the Falcon Home. He's trying to recover the loot, or some of these 2,500 prisoners, right? So, as I said, the important thing is we've got till August 10th before Murray Mac strides forth. The Emperor's Own cannot ride over here. They're stuck in Broholm thanks to the miserable weather as well. But we can now turn our attention to this siege, which is going to begin, as we said, on, and let's go ahead and write this down. The siege, they become invested on, what did we say? The 30th, right? So day one of the siege is going to be 7/31. Siege begins. And we have that 10 days. And what we'll do today is we're going to work through the process William Sylvester gives us for how you work through the initial stages of a siege. If it takes longer than 10 days, we're going to figure out how long it would take absent any kind of interference. I think it's a safe bet at this point that come the 11th, well, do we have time for a relieving force to get over there? Right? There's going to be some missives. There's going to be some horse trading here. I think the idea is that the great Latora Khan wants to try and soak these guys for as much damage as he can. As it stands, we tallied up those prisoners. The Latora Khan currently has a total of 1,400 prisoners compared to 2,500 prisoners that are orcs. Okay, so if they were to work out some kind of prisoner exchange, there would still be 1,000 orcs left in Heavingford. Latora Khan says, well, maybe I smash Hobfort. Maybe I get back some of my own. If I can break these guys' will, take another 1,000, we'll be able to do a straight one-for-one trade. Yeah, the loot is pretty much gone at this point. Or is it? If the siege is broken fast enough, then Latora Khan may be able to send his 1,000 boys down here to catch the loot. The loot is likewise not going to be able to move. They are cut in half and then can't move and can't move. So their speed, if they did try to set out, the 60 guards and the 100,000 gold would be stuck right here for those 10 days. They're not going to be able to get away. I suppose we could stick them on a boat and sail them down to Cedar Landing, which would put them effectively out of reach. Except again, That's 10 days on a stormy sea. There's a very good chance you lose all of that loot. Do we want to do that? Speaking of which, I don't have it in my notes, but I thought we mentioned there was a wizard somewhere down here in this long lake that would spring loose if there were magic items or if they recovered, but I can't remember anything about that. So we're going to ignore it for the time being. The important thing is if this siege goes quickly, the orcs are going to be able to come down and lay siege to Hobfort as well. But maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at how old Bill Sylvester says to handle sieges. And for that, he's got an interesting little process that involves a deck of cards. We like that. Provides for a nice wide range of possibilities. Let me get that deck of cards out. We're going to do our pretty lady, Aloha from Hawaii. This is very simple. The first 5 days go very simply. Now, I have made a little bit of a change here. On day 5, you draw a food and ammunition card to see, both the attacker and defender, how much of a food supply they've got. So as of, and basically the question is, as of August 5th, we're going to draw a card for the defender first. Now, because it's raining, what I've done is I've said, look, that's going to affect the supply chains for both sides. On an ace or a king, it'll be a 5-day food supply. On a 7 through queen, the food and ammunition last the duration of the siege. So the Bromans are going to have a... Wait, what is that? That's a nothing. The Bromans are going to have all the food they need, and the orcs have brought along enough food for, so we look at number 4, 30-day food supply. All right, so let's say the orcs can last 30 days. That's going to be the maximum duration of the siege. But then, on the 8th, you have to draw another card, and that's the health card, okay? The Bromans are going to suffer, and again, as you can see, ace and king now is going to be smallpox. But we got a 6. Hey, the Bromans are doing well. Their little Hobfort is prepared for this, whereas the orcs are also going to be healthy for the duration. If you draw bad cards here, you can see the plague is going to wipe out 20% of casualties after 4 days. The orcs, if they had drawn that 4, they would have died, right? All 100% of them, because they don't have any way to move out and end the siege. But that didn't happen. So then we come to August 10th. And now we have to see, here's where it really comes down to it. The enlistment card. You draw a card for the defender first. And on a king, on a king, the garrison surrenders after 50% casualties. On August 10th, garrison surrenders, 50% casualties. Oh boy. Then we have to draw a card for, and that's because of the heavy rains. They just couldn't, ordinarily, if the weather was fine, they would have held out. But we have to see what happens to the attacker as well. On a result of a 9, no effect on the siege. So look at that. Just like that, we've done a siege, and we find that the defenders, who consisted of these 1,000 archers and 900 heavy foot. All right, so I'm going to make a note right here so we can update our numbers with 450 dead heavy foot and 50 dead archers. That brings the total number of prisoners in the area up to 875. We have to break off another 100 guards, so 375. And now, but look at that, you still have 2,600 forces in the Khan's army. And on the 10th, the rains part, and the orcs are able to finally complete their siege of Hobton. Then the weather clears up, and we have to take a look at something here. Specifically, we have to look here at the distance between Hobfort and Hobfort, and it's really only, an inch and a quarter. That's a 2-day march. So let's call it on the 11th. It's going to take them a day to get everything sorted, okay? So the Great Khan is going to spend the 11th completing the siege. And then on the 12th and 13th, he's going to be able to move to Hobfort. And there you go. So now what we really need to do is take a look at the weather from here. Because once this falls, I think you put the treasure on the treasure fleets, and you head on down here. Now, cavalry can move at an inch a day. Let's measure this distance. There's 2 inches to there, 2.5. So it's 4.5 inches from Hevingford to Cedar Landing. So we can move the loot down to here, but I think what we'll do is we'll call it 1.5 inches. On the 10th, the siege is broken. Load them up on the 11th, and then it's going to be the 12th, 13th, and 14th. So the loot is going to be down here on August 15th. But there's no room for the prisoners. We just don't have enough space for that. And I think the other question is, where's my weather chart? It's clear up through the 15th. Right, okay, so good. So then we have a couple of weeks of clear weather, and the loot is right here. Of course, the girdle is in Broholm, and it looks like... So now the question is, as we said, it's the move to Hevingford, so now we have a second siege. Bear in mind, we knew that we had 30 days to start. The orcs have burned through a total of, well, it's from the 5th through so they have 8 days. So this time around, we know the orcs have a 22-day food supply, all right? Starting on, and they invest on the 13th, so that means starting on the 14th, we're going to start burning through that food supply. They're going to run out on the 14th. And if we go back to our... Let's shuffle these up. I'm going to go through another siege, and now it's to find out if Latora Khan can rescue his boys down there at Hevingford. Okay, and we'll do a couple little shuffles there, and just one more cut of the deck. So we've already figured out what the food supply is going to be like for the attackers. Now we need to check the defenders, and we're going to use the chart as written. The defenders, King, have food and ammunition for the duration of the siege. There isn't going to be any concern about that. That is going to be on the 14th. So that's going to last for 5 days. On day 5 is when we check this out. So that is on the 19th, right? And then on day 8, so that's 5, 19, 23, on August 23rd, we are going to find out what our health card is. Drawing first for the defender. See the defenders on top? Cholera, 10% casualties per day. So the Bromans are going to lose, after 10 days, 100% of their defenders. Lose 10% per day. Not looking good for the home team here. However, for their part, the orcs are ready for it. They are healthy for the duration of the siege, which means after 2 more days, on the 25th, we have to draw for the enlistment card. On the 25th, Jack for the defender, as usual, no effect on the siege, and our attackers are going to get no effect on the siege. So what that means is that the Bromans will be able to hold out until September. Let's see, it's going to be the 23rd plus 8 to September 2nd. The last defender, they hold out to the last man. Last defender finally gives up on September 2nd, and the Great Khan is going to be able to rescue all of his troops. And these defenders, remember we had those 375 light horse and the 500 guards here, the heavy foot, they are also going to be out of the picture. So the question then becomes, does the Great Khan, he's watched his treasures sail away, does he wind up marching to finish off the Broman Empire? Does he decide that the new boundary is right here? Remember, he still has, man, what does he have in terms of prisoners? Now it's, now he's in the catbird seat, isn't he? He's got like 1,900 prisoners, and he may exchange them for some cash monies. But we have advanced the clock all the way to September 2nd without realizing what is happening to Murray Mac. So let's turn our attention away from this siege. And again, this is all assuming that there's no interference from this side. We are going to have to set up another battle because we need to look over here. Murray Mac sets out on the 10th. He's going to arrive here on the 20th. Oh, you know, there may not be enough time after all. Now, Murray Mac moves at the speed of infantry in this case. And, you know, we're going to have another repeat where I don't know where he comes across the border here. We're going to need to break out the old D6 from left to right, 1 through 6. On a 1, they come out along the river. On a 2, he's going to come out right here. That's 10 days. It's 10 days everywhere. I guess they maybe got lost in the woods. So they come out on the 20th. And now the king has to decide, well, is he going to give up Blagton or not? Moving on the road. Let's take a look here. We have a lovely movement chart here in our book, and we'll refresh our memory. Moving on a good road, infantry can move 3/4 of an inch per turn. So they are going to be able to move 2 1/4 in just 3 days. They're going to be able to arrive. Basically, Blagton is 3 days away, meaning they're going to be able to come up and meet these guys. They headed for Blagton. Our fight is going to be somewhere right about here. All right, and that fight is going to be between the Emperor's Own and a reinforced Nashers. As I said, the Nashers only have about 1,400 guys, but they do have Murray Mac. Oh, did I mention Sir Dude got captured? He's one of the guys over here as well with those prisoners. But be that as it may, the Emperor's Own, we're looking at, oh, look, the Emperor's Own wildly outnumbers Murray Mac. Do we want to divvy up our forces? Do we want to take the heavy foot? That's 1,400 armored foot. That giant is terrifying. So we're not going to do that. We are going to do a new battle just north of Blagton. Not on Blagton Road this time. It's going to be this battle right here. Well, with all this stomping around, basically through the end of September, we need to run through and figure out what our weather's going to be like. It's mostly clear. 1 day of light rain doesn't have much effect. It's when you string a couple of them together. 26th, 27th, heavy rain, then light rain the 28th, 29th. So you're not going to be able to do any moving, basically 27, 28, and 29. You're going to have to wait for it to clear on the 29th. But what does that mean? Well, hey, we should take a look. Remember what I said here, that old Murray Mac comes bursting out of the woods on the 20th. The Bromans do have, you know, rangers out here and scouts and whatnot, so they're going to be able to pick their moment. And they basically set out on the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, and then on the 21st. That is what, wait a minute, 21st? Isn't that the day he said dramatically, yeah, look, light rain. It's going to be lightly raining here at the Battle of Exodite. Exodite is helping me complain about Matrix games in the comments right now as I film this. So, hey, if you're a clever sleuth, you can go check out and figure that out. But we need to figure out what this battle is going to look like. Now, we know the Bromans are coming from the south and the Orcs are coming from the north. We know it's largely open. So as we translate, we're away from rivers and roads, but we can translate down to the tactical level using this same chart that we usually use. Now, when we are dealing with an area where that is largely clear, what we do is we replace this heavy woods. So the 4s are going to be clear, just basically grasslands, and then likewise the light woods will just be grassland. So 4 and 7 are nothing. And remember that it's the black cards will be a feature. I've already dealt these out, so let's just shuffle them, I should say. We'll do a quick cut, and then we're just going to lay out our grid, looking for black cards, but not 4s and 7s. They are going to be nothing. Joker means something special. I don't know what it means at this point. Maybe there's a ridge or something, but as you can see, we are definitely in the clear. A 5 is going to be down in this portion, and that is going to be heavy woods. We've got a pair of kings over here. Kings are tall grass. So tall grass coming around through here. We'll call it tall grass, and that's going to be kind of rough going. Maybe because of the rain, there's going to be no going through it at all. The queen is also grass. So we've got some pretty heavy grasslands. We'll just call it rough going. And then the 4, as I said, normally it's heavy woods, but because our terrain is clear on the strategic map, it's going to be nothing at all. Next to that, we have an ace, which is going to be a hill, and that hill is going to be like right about here. And then we have the joker, which we'll call a farmstead. And then just south of that is 8, which is light woods. So there you go. Kind of a defensive area. Grass. What am I supposed to do with that? Exodite farm it is. Now, I went back and I double-checked. Thought, you know what? There were guards with those prisoners that brought Murray Mac, and looking here at the map, it was 125 light horse and 125 archers. Now, the light horse move at the same speed as Murray Mac, so they are going to be present at the battle. These archers, however, move at the speed of foot. They get stuck right here on the 30th, which is when the skies open up. They're not going to be able to cross the Lesser Sunderland River. Looking at it, they are a full week behind the rest of the forces. So they, realizing that they're stuck there for a week, disperse to their homes. They're basically out of the campaign. What that does mean, though, is that if we look here at the disposition of the forces of the Bromans, they're going to have 300 heavy horse over here on their right flank, and then they've got 700. They've got 1,400 armored foot, slow movers crawling up north, 900 heavy foot. Now, this is, look, it's a fair fight, 990 to 990. We'll let that play out. Maybe these guys peel off, add the weight of numbers, and they can drive these guys off. That leaves, and, but that means you're looking at 700 armored foot versus a giant who takes 12 hits to kill. That could be a stomping. And meanwhile, that extra 125 light horse means you're looking here at a total of, well, this is going to be 430, about 500 horse altogether, going up against half as many heavy horse. Just one little stand of heavy horse there, huh? So that could be an interesting fight, or maybe the heavy horse gets stuck in with these guys. Not entirely sure. We're going to have to play the battle. That's going to be next week, and that will be the Battle of Exodite Ranch. See you then. Till then, I'm praying for you.